just done this last week, I think. What's going on, guys? Trying to get set up here. Got me and Pastor Ashley. Hey, Sister Victoria, get on over here now. Good to see you. Hey, Walter. Hope everything's going well. We are going to give it a couple minutes, let everybody get on. We're going to open up with a word of prayer. And Sister Ashley and I, she's actually felt led to do so. Hey, Sister Jennifer, how you doing? But we wanted to get on and begin with prayer. Praying for everyone. Just praying for the mass confusion and chaos that's going on around us in the world today. And I'm really excited about sharing what God has given me for tonight, because it's going to deal with exactly that. But we'll get to there here in just a moment. I'm also going to make a couple of announcements about Sunday service. We are going to be coming back to church, amen, but we are doing a little different, so we are excited about that. So we're going to give it a couple more minutes. I think we're right at 7 o'clock. We'll get going here in just a moment. Hey, Sister Debbie, Brother William, Sister Rita, I hope everybody's doing well.
I miss y'all.
We definitely do. We'll be glad when all this is over and we get to fellowship again. Yes, we are excited too, Victoria. Hey, Sister Melissa Ingram, how are you guys doing? Hope everything is well. Hope you're keeping Brother Cliff straight. We miss you guys too, Sister Debbie. Ryan Clem. I guess you guys will be going live here too, so y'all be in prayer for our youth group. Be in prayer for Pastor Ryan. I imagine that's a handful on social media with a bunch of youth. Praying for you, brother. Brother Glenn, how you doing? Hope everything is awesome. Sister Hannah. Sister Kimberly. We're going to be going through names all night. Our Eric and Sister Denise. It's so awesome.
I'm so excited to
Brother Mike.
see all of y'all.
Hope you're holding Tallahassee down there.
But we're sending virtual
hugs.
Miss y'all.
But we're going to open up with a word of prayer here in just a moment. We're going to pray corporately. Instead of waiting till the end of the service tonight or the Bible study tonight, we're going to go ahead and open up with that prayer. Not just a simple opening prayer, but we really want you guys to agree with us and go to the Lord in prayer. For those of you that don't know, I seen today that there's a thing they're doing all over trying to do all over the nation, and that's I can't remember. I think they call it front porch prayer, but we are asking. That they're asking that people go out on the front porch at 7 p.m. to pray for our nation. So we actually get to do that as a corporate body, being we have Bible study already. So we're going to open with prayer and pray for our communities, pray for our businesses, pray for our nation, pray for our government leaders. Pray for our ministers. There's a lot of weight, a lot of decisions, and a lot of nurses that are around this stuff every single day, and people are working in and out and trying to make things happen. So we want to just make sure we cover those guys in our prayers. And then also, I wanted to go ahead and make this quick announcement. So before I go any further, reach down there in that little bottom right hand corner on your screen, click the share button, make this available to as many people as we can. I am astonished and blown away by the participation we have on our Facebook Live videos. You guys are absolutely amazing, and that's why I say we pastor the best church in the world, and that's because you guys make it that way. But we are this Sunday having service here at the church. We are doing a drive-in service, so get the word out as fast as you can. Share it. Don't wait for Northwoods to put something out. Go on your page, share it with our friends. We are going to have a drive-in service. The praise team is going to have worship songs. I'll be bringing a word from the parking lot, and we are going to have our sound system set up, and we are excited about it. A couple of small minor things we have to keep in mind. We are limited on how many people can be outside of the cars and in the group, so we are asking you to please respect our governor and our leadership and what they've asked us to do in not having a gathering of more than 10. So we are asking you to come, and the service is not going to be an extended service because we know it gets warm. So if you have a loud vehicle, we're going to ask if you can to cut it off just so people can kind of hear well. If you need to cut it on and get some AC or whatever going, we understand, but we're going to try to get in and get the word of God out there to you guys and get you on the way. You'll have an opportunity, if you still like me and you like to give the old-fashioned way, we'll have an opportunity for you to give your tithes and offerings that way. But also I want to say thank you so much. You guys did awesome this past week. Thank you for still supporting your church when nobody was here to watch you do it. We had a great outpouring of giving this past week, even in the midst of these circumstances. So we appreciate you guys for that. Because of your faithfulness and your love, Northwoods will rise above this situation, and we're going to continue going. So thank you guys for that. So get the word out. Sister Ashley, you want to say anything about your expectations for Sunday service?
I'm just excited. Like, when I get to see all y'all's faces, y'all know that I'm having hug withdrawals. I don't know what to do with myself. Hug and love all over y'all. So it's going to be very hard Sunday and very different, but I'm going to respect our leaders, and we're going to stay in our vehicles, but you know what, just to see y'all's face and just to, tell each other, I love you, I'm here. I'm just excited about it. I mean, it makes me emotional because I do miss y'all, but I really believe God's going to do something great Sunday.
Yes.
I'm not expecting anything less. I'm just so proud to see all the churches stepping out of the ordinary and still finding a way to get together. And I'm just glad that we're going to do that here at Northwoods too. And we're going to just enjoy in our cars and worship and just let God have his way out there on the front parking lot, and let's just have a good time. I love y'all and can't wait to see y'all Sunday.
Amen. Thank you, Sister Ashley. We are going to get ready to go ahead and open up with prayer so we can get into our Bible study tonight. I see Sister Kimberly Johnson has said that her son Elijah has cut his foot open. They're on the way to the ER. So let's keep them in our prayers also, as well as everything else going on in the nation. Ashley and I are going to agree together. We're asking you that right there where you are, if you will take this as serious as you can, just as you were sitting in an altar somewhere, and join with us in prayer and believe in your heart that we're not just praying because we're supposed to before the service. We are praying because we believe God is able to hear us, and his ear is attentive to the righteous, and he hears our cry. And the Bible says his ear is not too heavy that it cannot hear, nor his arm too short that he cannot reach. I promise you, God can reach right down in the midst of our circumstances and in our situations, and we are just thrilled and honored to know that our Savior lives. Amen. So Sister Ashley, do you mind leading us off, and then I'm going to join in with you, and you guys just join in with us. Don't listen to our words. We're not praying with enticing words. We're just believing the Holy Spirit to do what only he can do. So Brother Jason, thank you so much for all of you guys doing for continuously spreading the gospel out there where you guys are at, you and Sister Nikki. Thank you guys for everyone on here. Let's go to the Lord in prayer, and let's jump into this thing head first, believing that God is about to do something amazing. Sister Ashley, will you begin us off?
God, we just want to thank you for tonight. We want to thank you for the opportunity to be here with our family, God. Lord, we are just coming to you tonight, just believing and trusting in you, God. You see each and every one of our hearts. You see the season that we are in right now in our nation. But Lord, I thank you, Lord, even in the middle of the storm, even in the middle of the chaos, it is doing something to us. It is making us realize to not take things for granted, but to call upon the name of the Lord, to draw closer to him, God, and to just not give up on one another, to hold each other a little tighter, to just intercede for one another like never before. So Lord, I ask you, as we continue to just join together through social media, I'm just so happy to know that we have a Heavenly Father, that it doesn't matter that if we're right here physically together, you will show up and show out right where we're at. So I ask for each and every family that's tuning in right now, go to where they're at, go to their family where they're at, put a protective hedge around them, just prick their heart, do that Holy Spirit, let something come out of him Let them feel the power and the glory that only the Holy Spirit can give us, Lord. I thank you, Lord, for just being who you are. I thank you that no matter what sickness just invades our nation, God, nothing can take away our praise.
Yes,
nothing can take away of how good you are. So, Lord, I ask that you be with Pastor tonight as he just gives us a word. I just know it's going to be good. I ask that you open up our hearts and our minds to receive.
Yes,
and
Jesus.
as we receive, I ask that we spread it out to each and everybody we come in contact with.
Hallelujah.
Just be with us, and I love you, Lord. We love you, Lord, and
yes,
we thank
Lord.
you for everything that you're doing. In Jesus' name we pray.
Yes,
Amen.
yes, amen. Thank you so much, Sister Ashley. Again, we are so thrilled and honored to have you guys with us tonight. I mean, I almost want to get in tears right now just looking and seeing the effect that this coronavirus could have had. But I mean, the participation you guys are coming with. Thank you guys so much. You are amazing people, and we appreciate you guys. So tonight, again, I don't plan on keeping you very long on Facebook. I know some of you may have limited data, and you guys are stretching your limits already. So we're going to get straight into it tonight. And if you have your Bibles, I'm going to go ahead and give you where our scriptures are going to be. We're going to be in 3 different places, but the main story is going to come from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 4. Mark, chapter 4, starting with verse 35. Then we're going to go to John, chapter 14, verse 27. And then Philippians, chapter 4, verse 6. Mark, chapter 4, John, chapter 14, and Philippians, chapter 4. I want to talk to you tonight on a subject, and it's oddly because my wife has no idea. She likes to hear the teaching. She tells me all the time, don't tell me what you're talking about. And she opened up the prayer with God bringing peace in the storm and in the chaos. And that's my subject tonight, is peace in the storm. And it is obvious that our whole world has been stricken with a storm right now. But I don't believe that that's the only storms that rage. Every person, every one of you listening to me now, those that will listen to us on after the live feed is over and it's been posted, you guys have either been through a storm, maybe you're in the midst of a storm, or maybe you know that it's only a matter of time before you enter that next storm. And I want to talk to you tonight on how to be reminded that God is still the peacekeeper in the storm. He knows how to make peace in the midst of the storm. So in the book of Mark, chapter 4, verse 35 through 41. If you will, please stand for the reading of God's word. I'm just picking. You can stay seated at your computer. Mark chapter 4, verse 35 through 41. It says, And the same day, when the even was come, he saith unto them, Let us pass over unto the other side. And when they had sent away the multitude, they took him even as he was in the ship. And there were also with him other little ships. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship, so that it was now full. And he was in the hinder part of the boat, or the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow. And they awake him and say unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish? Basically, do you not care that we are perishing? And he arose, and he rebuked the wind, and he said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And listen to this. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. Yes. And he said unto them, Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? And they feared exceedingly, and said one to another, What manner of man is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? Now I want to talk to you just for a few minutes on peace in the storm. No matter what you're going through, whether it be the situation of the coronavirus, or maybe it's the effects of the coronavirus. Maybe it's affected your job. Maybe it's affected your finances. Maybe it's affected your family, schooling, things of that nature. regardless of what storms, or maybe you're going through a storm that has nothing to do with the pandemic of the world today. Maybe you're going through a storm of your own self, a spiritual storm. Maybe you're going through a mental storm. Maybe there's things you don't even know who you are. Maybe you're frustrated. Maybe you're battling. Maybe you're steadily finding yourself ill and frustrated and confused and chaotic. I don't know who I'm talking to. I just feel very strongly that there's people out there that this pandemic is the least of your worries, because the weight of the world seems like it's on your shoulder. And I'm here to tell you that God is still the peace giver. He is still the one that calms the seas. Now, if you'll go and you'll read this story, you'll understand that Jesus has just fed 5,000 people with his 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. Now, imagine being on site, and this man just performed a miracle. He blessed this food, and he blessed it, and then the disciples went out passing it out, and it just, as they kept reaching in the basket, there was always more to give. There's always more to give. It just kept being enough. It started out looking like it wasn't enough, but the more that they kept obeying God's command to give, it kept being enough, and it kept coming. So much to the point that they had more at the end to have take-home plates, if you will, to-go plates. So then he tells them, he says, I want us to go into the other side. Let's launch into the other side. And the disciples have sent the multitude away. And the Bible says that he was on a ship, but there was other little ships with them. And they get out in the midst of this sea, and then this great storm happens, and the waves are crashing so much that the boat is being full of water. Now, I know many of you have heard or seen the little comment that says it's not the water under the boat that sinks the boat. It's when the water gets in the boat that the boat sinks. Well, that's why these disciples were they had seen storms. That many of them were fishermen. They knew what storms were. They knew how to handle a boat in the storm. But evidently this storm was bad enough that it caused them to be very fearful. The waves were crashing over the boat. Pretty much they had lost control. They had been in this situation before, but were able to maintain control. But now they find themselves in an uncontrolled situation, in a situation where all they did was simply obey their master, who had up to this point never led them astray. He had never failed them. His promises had never fell short. They had always been accomplished, all the way to the very minor little words of his prophetic speech. Everything had always been fulfilled up to this moment. And they find themselves in a situation that they cannot control. You are finding yourselves in situations that you cannot control. Whether it be the pandemic or the other situations that I've mentioned previously. You have found yourself at times in your life in situations that you cannot control. And as our humanity, our human nature, it fights against our spirit, because our spirit says, our spirit man wants to release the control over to God and say, I trust you, Lord. But the humanity says, I don't want to let go because I don't know if you can handle I don't want to hand the reins to somebody else. I don't want somebody else to drive me down the road at 100 miles per hour, because I trust my driving more than I know theirs. I don't know how good they can drive. The thing about it is we find ourselves wanting to hold the reins. We're wanting to call the shots. We're wanting to tell people exactly what they need to do, the prayer that they need to pray, the amount of oil that they need to put on their head, the amount of prayers that they need to pray in a day, and how many times they need to be in church, and how many scriptures. We start trying to control an uncontrollable situation when God never intended for us to have control. He is simply waiting on someone. God's not asleep right now. He's not unaware of what's going on. He's not caught off guard. Let me tell you something. Before this coronavirus ever made it to the headlines of our national news, God already seen it in the forerunner. He already seen it coming. He already knew it was on the way. Before your situation came up in your life, before your trouble with your children, before your mishap with your spouse, before your trouble at your job came up, God already seen the speed bump in the road. And God said, I'm not going to remove it, because we have to understand that in order to get to where we're going to go, we can't always, we got to just pull out some Carrie Underwood every now and then and say, Jesus, take the wheel. Yes. We got to be willing to get in the passenger seat and let God take us to where we need to go. So God, or Christ is in this boat. These people have found themselves in an uncontrollable situation. But Christ is asleep. Now he's not just sleeping with a little raindrops hitting the water and a little wind blowing. The Bible says their boat was full and Jesus was asleep in the rear of the boat. And they call out to him and say, Master, do you not care that we perish? Can you imagine the amount of cries that have went up over these last couple of weeks to people that have always watched movies about the end times, or they've watched the zombie apocalypse movies, or they're always been into this sci-fi stuff, and never one time have they ever considered what would they do if they found themselves in an uncontrollable situation. Maybe it's not as extreme as some demonic zombie apocalypse or some supernatural superhero jump, but it is the same thing. The fact of the matter is there is a supernatural power at work here. Yes. There is a supernatural force. And it's not just God. There is a supernatural force in the kingdom of hell that is coming against God's chosen people. And we have to be ready, and we have to be... God's not asleep in the boat. God's not asleep up there. But the problem is God is waiting for the faith of his people to allow his power to move. I don't necessarily believe Jesus was asleep in the boat because he didn't care. Jesus was asleep in the boat because he said, as soon as they are ready for my work, yes, they will call on me. God wasn't setting them out there and say, you're just going to die. I'm just sick. I'm tired. God is not that kind of God. He is not a hateful God. Yes, we have a nation that has went astray. Yes, we have a church that has gotten weak and watered down. Yes, we have situations and problems. But can I tell you, even though there may be a portion that has been weak and watered down, there is still a remnant of Holy Ghost-filled believers that refuse to give up, refuse to quit, refuse to throw in the towel. We might take a punch on the jaw every now and then, but it ain't the punch on the jaw that cost us to fight. It's when we get back up and we dust ourselves off and we stand back up and we run the race of faith. You might find yourself in an innermost prison, but sing a little praise. Stop singing the same old news. Let the news be the ones that mess with everybody's mind. Stop joining in and spreading the news media stuff, and just get into the point where instead of spreading the negative sickness around the world, we're worried about the coronavirus spreading, but I'll tell you, we've got a pandemic much worse than the coronavirus, and that is the fact that people are thrilled about spreading the dramatic news of something negative. We have a cancer that is eating away at the body of believers because we've got people that are so fearful that they have forgot that God is faithful. Yes. And listen, quarantining yourself, getting yourself safe, obeying the orders of those set above you in the Lord. You've got some folks out there right now, they are so rebellious and they refuse to sit under any supreme authority. They call themselves a follower of God, but yet refuse to follow his ordained leadership. And they're going to attack you because you're not coming into the church on Sunday. They're going to attack you because you're not out there street preaching right now. But I don't believe it's by chance that social media has gotten to the place that it's at. And this has happened. And we have seen the outburst of the church getting scattered abroad into places that it wouldn't have been if we'd have just met up in the sanctuary tonight. We have this service going to places that it wouldn't have been had we just been sitting in the four walls of this church. Don't get me wrong. When this thing is all said and done, yes, I believe in the fellowship of believers. I believe in the congregation of the body, and we will be right back in it. I don't believe that God done this because he wants us to shut the doors on the church. I believe God done this just as he had done in the New Testament church when they couldn't go into Jerusalem and they couldn't get into the temples and the synagogues, and the Bible says they were scattered abroad. Yes. And let me tell you something. We've got churches that were planted all over the world because somebody got outside of the walls. So we're not here to follow the religious traditional mindset because some people like to hear an amen in the crowd and they like to hear a hand clap and they like to get a pat on the back. We are here to simply know Jesus Christ has said go into the other side. And if we got to pass through the storm, there's a Gadarean man full of devils that's going to be full of the Holy Ghost if we'll keep marching through the storm. God knew that there was an evangelist about to be anointed on the other side, but he needed to plant a lesson on the way. This storm rose, and Jesus gets up and he looks to the storm. He says, "Peace, be still." He said, "Peace, be still." And the Bible says that the waves ceased and the wind quit blowing. And this is what those men said. He said, "Who is this man?" They didn't think it was such a big deal. And it kind of blows my mind, but it goes to show you what God was really doing. The things that probably, that wasn't even recorded. The things that he must have been doing. Because the 5,000 didn't blow their minds. It was when he got up and spoke, feeding 5,000 with 2 fish and 5 loaves. Cool, man. Let's move on. But they get out here in the storm, and this happens. He speaks to the wind and the sea, and they obey him. And these people look at and said, "Who is this man that even the wind?" Meaning, there's some other stuff we expected to obey him. There's some other situations. We found ourselves able to control the boat. We found ourselves able to control fishing. We found ourselves able to feed some folks or find means that we didn't know we had. But this man just spoke to things that didn't have ears and it listened. This man just spoke to things that didn't have a mind and it obeyed. Yes. This thing just spoke to creation itself and it moved. God is saying he is still the supreme authority. He is still the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. He is still majestic. He is still high and lifted up. Sister Jessica, this is in the book of Mark chapter 4, verse 35 through 41. But God is still bringing peace to the storm. Let's jump to the book of John chapter 14, verse 27. Jesus Christ is getting ready to leave, if you will, in a sense. He never left us. But he said, "I must go because God, my Father, is going to send you a comforter." And then we find ourselves, and he said, it's the Holy Ghost. He's going to come. He's going to comfort you. He's going to lead you, guide you, and direct you into all truth. In other words, Christ was saying, "I'm going to go to the Father, and the Holy Spirit, my Spirit, is going to come, and it's going to baptize the church. It's going to baptize the individual. It's going to baptize the believer. And you're going to be a force to be reckoned with." Because he said, "The works that I do, greater works shall you do, because I go unto the Father." You saw the winds and the sea obey me. Greater works shall you do. You watched a dead man get up after 4 days. Greater works shall you do. You watched me spit in the mud and bring vision to a blind man. Greater work shall you do. You watch me preach the gospel and take a fisherman and make a minister. You watch me take a Gadarean demoniac and make an evangelist. You watch me take a woman with an issue of blood and make an evangelist and make a teacher. You watch me take a woman who was a harlot and had 5 husbands and I met her at a well and made an evangelist and saved the city. God said, "Greater works shall you do." Now we look at John chapter 14, verse 27. He said, "I'm sending you this comforter." And this is what he says in 27. "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid." Now there is a good fear and there is a negative fear. There is a fear of the Lord. That fear doesn't mean I'm afraid of God. Like, oh my gosh, I hope he doesn't come because I don't want him to kill me or send me to hell. Not that kind of fear. The word fear means reverence. When you reverence God, you place it in his hands. You are able to release the thing that you can't control, but yet you've been trying to control it. You are able to release it into his hands. But let me share something with you. Releasing it into God's hands doesn't mean you cross your arms and quit trying. Releasing the issue into God's hands doesn't mean you sit down in the boat and say, "Get it, Lord." God is going to require of you faithfulness, righteousness. He is going to require of you the works that I do. Tell somebody. Go tell somebody the gospel. Go tell somebody the good news. Go tell somebody what Jesus is doing. Go tell somebody about a man that told me all I'd ever done. Go tell somebody about a Savior who went to Calvary's cross, stretched his arms wide, beaten, battered, unrecognizable as a man, looked up unto heaven and cried for the forgiveness of the same ones that would beat him and ridicule him and laugh at him and mock him and gamble for his belongings. And yet he looked down with love and compassion and said, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He said, do not let your heart be troubled. When you hear the noise of the world, hear it. It's okay. You have a lot of people that would tell you, block it out. Just block the noise of the world out. How can you reach a congregation you won't listen to?
Come on.
How will you reach a lost world that you don't know where they're at? You've got to listen to the noise sometimes. But you cannot let the noise plant your faith or destroy your faith and plant fear. You've got to let your faith override the noise and then plant the gospel in the faithless unbeliever. And let faith begin to was sent to do. I see we're having a few glitches with our Facebook, so please bear with us. If you missed something, please come back and watch it. But he says, Lord, just as you have sent me into this world, I send them. Yes. In other words, Jesus Christ has commissioned every disciple. He has put you on an assignment. Look at your neighbor. If you ain't got a neighbor, look at yourself. You are on an assignment. God has put you on assignment. And guess what? Sometimes to get the good grades, when I was in high school, there was 2 courses. If you were like me and you just wanted to go through the motions, you could take the vocational track. And you could just go through the motions, pass your grades, and get to school. But then there was the college track that would get you a heads up into your college education, even while you were still in high school. God has put you on an assignment. If you want to just get through, then you're just going to go through the motion, and you're just going to let the assignment that someone else has. All right, I think we are back and in action. Mm-hmm. All right, so here we are. So,
sorry guys.
She's testing it for me to make sure we're here. All right, back on it. Let's get back on it. Jesus said, peace I leave with you. And this is not just any peace. See, Christ gives a peace that doesn't come. When you are running low on money and you got a bill coming up and someone helps you out, or maybe a blessing comes in and you get that sense of peace, that's not the same peace. See, that peace comes because what you needed was fulfilled. But the peace God gives you brings fulfillment even before the fulfilling of the promise. Yes. See, God's peace, having the peace of God does not mean that you go through a life and never have problems. The peace of God brings you to storms and yet calms the storms and lets you go through. The peace of God brings you to situations and brings you to parts of your life where it looks unbearable, uncontrollable, and Christ steps in and brings you through. You go into the storm knowing that greater is He that lives in me than he that lives in the world. So, as we get ready to wrap this up tonight, I want us to jump to Philippians chapter 4, starting with verse 6. I'll give you a couple of minutes if you need to flip over. Philippians chapter 4, verse 6. If you got it, raise your hand. All right, looks like everybody's got it. Amen. Philippians chapter 4, verse 6. It says, be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. You have to understand that when you have faith in God, faith has action. James said, I will show you my faith by my works. Faith brings actions. Just saying, I ain't worried about that virus. I ain't worried about my money. I got faith. But you're not praying. You're not letting your requests be made known to God. God already knows your need before you ask, the Bible says. But He still expects you to talk to Him. He wants that individual relationship with you. He don't want to have relationship with you only through church. He don't want just weekend visits with you. He wants you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He wants to reside in your presence. He wants you to reside in His presence. And listen to me, it isn't because He's some boastful God that just needs attention. The reason, it isn't His benefit that you're in His presence, although that is His desire. It benefits you to be in His presence because His presence brings your protection. His presence brings your healing. His presence brings your breakthrough. His presence brings your answers. His presence brings revival. His presence brings back life. I want to be a partaker of the kingdom of God and all that He has for me. He said, you'll take vineyards that you did not plant. You'll live in houses that you did not build. He said, I'm going to give you the fruits of everything, and it's not even going to be of your labor. There is something God's got for you. But the enemy wants to dampen your attitude. He wants to throw gasoline on your marriages. He wants to throw gasoline on your relationships with your children. He wants to cause an uproar in your work and in your situation to where when everything else hits the stage as this pandemic, we lose our minds and we lose our focus. But by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. And the peace of God, not the peace of man, not the peace of the government, not the peace that you've been wanting, but the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Why do I feel like I'm about to lose my mind? Maybe you need to get a hold of God's peace. Why do I keep losing my focus? Get back in God's peace. Why? Get in your prayer, supplication with thanksgiving in your heart, and the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Philippians 4:8, he says, finally, brethren, listen to this. This is very key to what was just said. Whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of a good report. Somebody say good report. Good report. Say it one more time. A good report. In other words, whatsoever things are good news, whatsoever things lift people's spirits, whatsoever things help people, whatsoever things encourage people, whatsoever things embolden people, whatsoever things empower people, if there be any virtue, well, there's not a whole lot of good right now. If there's any good virtue, if there is any praise, think on these things. Don't partake in the bad news. Don't partake in the cancer. Don't partake in the frustration. Don't make your whole sermon about what another sermon should have been about. Don't make your whole ministry about what needs to happen in everybody else's life. Make sure the good report is not of you. It's not of your works. It's not of your power, but it is the gospel of Jesus Christ. What He did on Calvary's cross, what He did at Resurrection Sunday, and what He's still doing today, baptizing people, setting the captive free, releasing the bonds of chains upon the wrist of man that have been held back for so long. I'm telling somebody tonight, God's getting ready to let you loose. He's getting ready to pull you out. Even in the midst of the fiery furnace, your devil is looking in and saying, why is there another one walking around loose and having freedom? Because there is a God that stands with the faithful believers. He said Nebuchadnezzar may have thought he was the king, but when he put the feet of God's people in the fire, the real king came on the scene. And I'm here to tell you today, when the storms are raging, the peace of God that passes all understanding, it wakes people up in the boat that's got God and says, speak to the storms, peace, be still. Walk upright knowing who you are in God. But this is my dilemma. I want to get real, if you will, as I close. And you know, that doesn't mean much to say I'm closing. God He could have stopped this pandemic. He could have stopped every earthquake. He could have stopped every tornado. I hear this asked all the time. If God is so loving, why does He allow bad things to happen? Why does He allow children to get sick? Why does He allow hurricanes to come? Why does He allow it? God never allowed those things into this world. The penalty of sin was death. The penalty of sin was death. But He loved us enough A lot of times we get so selfish because our lives are being shook. We expect God to be so loving that He was supposed to be tortured, and our lives we were never supposed to be able to have to do anything. We were just supposed to walk out our loving lives and hunt and fish and party and run the streets and race cars and paint and do your toenails. And I'm just trying to think of all the hobbies that I know are going on right now. And we were supposed to be all of these things, and nothing was ever supposed to be wrong. But the penalty of sin, this world is still corrupt. That's why He said this world will pass away. One day there will be a world where there is no death. There is no sin. There is no tornadoes. That's the one God is preparing for us. A new heaven and a new earth. The reason we still have those things today is because sin is still in the world. Christ has overcome the world. That's why we don't have to be afraid. So many people are asking, I've had faith and I've prayed, but God's not, where's the cure? Number one, are you praying your will or are you praying God's will? Because God's will accomplish God's purpose. And are we living for God's purpose or are we living for our purpose? That's the question we have to ask. Paul served God all the way to a nice, comfortable Hawaiian island where he died in peace at 100 million years old. Negative. Paul worshiped God all the way to the chopping block. John the Baptist served God all the way till he lost his head. All but one disciple that we know of was martyred for Christ's name's sake. That's why he says that if you would gain the whole world but lose your soul, you could get that sell your soul to the devil mentality and get your peace in this world, but it won't be God's peace. That peace will only be for a season. The peace of God is an eternal peace. It is a peace that says, even if, just like those 3 Hebrew children, they told Nebuchadnezzar, my God is able to save us from the furnace. But even if He don't, you've got to get to the place where the peace of God is on you. Even if He don't bring them back, even if He don't resurrect them, even if He don't heal the cancer, even if He don't stop the coronavirus, even if He don't stop the hurricane, I know He's able, but even if He don't, I know that my God is real. I know that my God is supreme, and if I die for Him, there ain't nothing gonna stop me from partaking of my eternal peace in God. Paul said to live is Christ, to die is gain. In other words, ain't no losing for me. If I get sick and die, I get to go be with Jesus. If I don't die, I get to preach Jesus. But either way, I get to have some time with Jesus. There's so much confusion in the world today. And the Bible tells us plainly, God is not the author of confusion. But can I tell you, God's not the author of confusion, but sometimes His children are. Everything that's confusing is not of the devil. Sometimes when we don't have it all together and we let our foundations get shook, and maybe we ain't been praying like we should, and this isn't condemnation, because guess what? All you got to do is start. Yes. I ain't been praying. Start praying. I ain't been to church. Go to church. I ain't been paying my tithe. Start paying your tithe. Whatever you got to do, just start. Don't live in guilt and shame. And Jesus Christ has already made a way of escape that you might be able to bear it. He's already provided for you the promise that you need. God is not the author of confusion, but sometimes His children are. Sometimes I heard a preacher say this one time, and I really loved it. He said, I was praying with God, and he said, I was being attacked on every corner. I was being attacked in my church. I was being attacked in the streets. He said, I went in there and I prayed, and I was mad with God. I said, God, I love you, but I can't stand your children. Sometimes, you hear people say it all the time. Pastoring would be easy if you didn't have to deal with people. But guess what? Christ died for us. We are those people. I can still remember when I was that little rebellious child that gave my pastor a fit. I can still remember when I was that little child that gave my parents a fit and had them living in anxiety and stress and worry. We've all been there. So this isn't a place for condemnation, because listen, God is giving you peace in the storm. All you got to do is let the peace that surpasses all understanding. Pray. Have thanksgiving in your heart. Refrain from allowing the negative influence of this world. And we got a double dose this. It's election year. So we ain't got nothing but negative. Everywhere we look. You got the negative in the politics. You got negativity with the coronavirus. You got negativity between churches. One church thinks you shouldn't have shut your doors. The other one says you should have. One of them says you don't have faith. One of them says you don't have common sense. One of them says they got the Holy Spirit. One of them says you got the Holy Devil. It's so many things. We've caused so much confusion because guess what? We are trying to control an outcome that's out of our control. Yes. We have been trying to control. We have been trying to. A good friend of mine, Dr. Marcus Glass, out of Albany, Georgia, he preached a sermon. He said, "It is exactly right to expect a miracle, but it is exactly wrong to schedule one." You don't walk up into the midst of a disease and say, "Oh, I got God. I'm just going to go." Same church that'll walk up and say you ought to open your doors are probably the same people that'll play with snakes. And are probably the same people that'll drink poison just to prove God's real. But God is not, He's not there to be tempted. He's there to be believed upon. He's there to be called upon. Just know that when you're riding in those ways and those winds are beginning to blow, the winds of life are beginning to blow, the rain is drenching your weary soul, the water is flooding you, and you can't find peace at home. You can't find peace in your family. You can't find peace in your children. You can't find peace even when you get by yourself. You can't find peace in your hobbies. Everything you're doing, you feel like you're missing that peaceful sensation that you used to once have. By prayer and supplication with thanksgiving in your heart, let your request be made unto God, and the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. And then he goes on in verse 8 that I just read to you a moment ago. He says, whatever things are true, pure, honest, good report, if there be any praise, think on these things. And then this is verse 9, and this is last point. Those things which you have both learned, received, and heard, and seen in me. Everything you've heard me do, everything you've seen me do, everything you've received that I do, everything that you've had even keen sense. If you've watched me do a miracle, heard of me doing a miracle, Jesus said, all these things you've seen me do. Or Paul is saying this to the Philippian church, everything you've seen me do. Those things, think on all of those things, and those things that you've seen me do, and the God of peace shall be with you. Think on those things that you've seen God do, whether it was through you personally, or whether it was through another minister, or whether it was through a situation or circumstance. When you've seen God work, every time situations come up and the enemy wants to cause confusion and division, just start talking and reminiscing on that when God done that work in your life, or all the times that you were at peace, and just this one moment trying to make you forget all those seasons of peace that you were with God. This season of peace that you get from God is an eternal season. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop being peaceful. It doesn't mean trials don't come, but you overcome the trial. You ride through the trial. You stand in the midst of the fiery furnace. But that's all I have for you tonight. I want to ask Sister Ashley, do you have anything that you would like to say or add with our awesome Facebook family?
Yes. I would have, I know many of you that are tuned in, I know if you remember a few months back when we done our Bible study on Wednesday night, and we were talking about making our baby leap. And one of the things we talked about was our perspective. And we talked about the magnifying glass. And whatever we choose to use the magnifying glass and focus on is what will become enlarged in our life.
That's good.
And I just want to remind you of that. I know this message was for me tonight, peace in the middle of the chaos, because let me tell you, having 5 kids at home, I've shared some funny stuff, but I am not a school teacher. And one of the things I love the most, I watched a video and the lady was praying, and she said the common core devil and the tapeworm had attacked her home. And it made me laugh a little because that's kind of how I felt. You know, my whole world has been just jumbled up. And that's minute compared to many others of what they're going through. But the reality is all of us are in the middle of our world being shifted as we know it. And sometimes when that happens, chaos arises because we feel unstable. But one thing I am learning, don't get me wrong, you know, last week there was many tears. There have been tears this week, and there's probably going to be some more. But God is revealing things in my own personal life that I have to work on, that I have to learn, that even in the middle of the storm, that I learn to call upon His name. I learn how to handle the stresses, or when my life is turned upside down, can I still praise Him? Can I still do the work of the Lord without letting it hinder me or stop me? So that's just all I want to challenge each and every one of us, is let's take this message that Pastor gave us tonight, peace in the middle of the chaos. And even though our boat of our life feels like all the waves are coming in right now, let's just give God praise and shift our focus back to Jesus. And when we shift our focus to Him, I'm telling you, everything else is going to seem minute of what we're going through. I love y'all, and I'm praying for each and every one of you during this time, and I know that y'all are praying for us. And we're going to keep taking this one day at a time, and we're going to just keep trusting the Lord that whatever tomorrow holds, we know who holds our tomorrow. And I love y'all, and thank you, Pastor, for a good word tonight.
Amen. One thing I wanted to say before I ended it, I left out, was the peace of God and the calming of the storm. Sometimes it's instant, and sometimes it's a process. If you go back to Genesis 1, when God, the world was chaos, it was dark, it was void, it was without form, and God spoke and the Spirit moved, and you know the story of creation. God brought cosmos to chaos.
Yes.
He took a chaotic situation and He brought cosmos. He brought order. But it was one day at a time. A little bit more each day. A little bit more each day. And on the seventh day, He rested. Yes. I just want to tell you tonight, I feel led to tell you there is a season of rest coming for you. Stand in the fight. Let that, you don't know what God's forming right now out of your chaos. But I'm telling you, when it's all said and done, cosmos will be brought to your chaos. Yes. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much too for your comments, your everything, your being involved. I tell you, I'm looking forward to seeing you all again, but I'm sure going to miss is just seeing how you guys respond. I need y'all to talk this much in church when I preach.
Yes.
Amen. But we love you guys. Praying for y'all, and again, please just follow the orders that are set back. Be smart about stuff. Having faith doesn't mean you don't use wisdom. Having faith means if God tells you to go do something, then you trust God. But if God doesn't blatantly tell you, don't just walk out being an arrogant, boastful person, because it might not be your faith, it might be your pride. And you don't want to get yourself in a mess. But do walk in wisdom. Keep your faith up, because God has got your peace in the storm. Love all you guys. I've seen so many comments come up, and so many of you saying you love us. Thank you. Yes. We love all of you, and we appreciate all of you. Don't forget, this Sunday, we will be having a drive-in church service. Come, bring your cars. We'll have you parking out there. All we ask is that you stay in your car. The restrooms will be closed, so please make sure you TT before you get here. The restrooms will be closed. We have been instructed to make sure that there is very, very limited movement. So please come and be a part of Hear the Word. But it will be Facebook Live. If you are older, or if you just feel like you don't have a strong immune system right now, or you just want to be safe, please understand. We understand. Stay at home. We encourage that. We are fine with that. We're not going to look down on you for that. And we'll be Facebook Live as well, also, and probably on YouTube, streaming on YouTube. So don't forget, you can pay your tithes and offerings on Givelify, or you can mail them in. All that'll be on the video as well. come Sunday. And
yes, Sister Nikki said the bathroom's not available. You can bring a bottle if you need to. So
please don't let me see.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Yes, we love y'all very much. Just remember, everyone working that has not been able to take off, it can be very scary for them and their families. So just continue to pray for them. Be the church that we say that we are, loving, caring, and a church on fire with prayer. And I can't wait to Sunday. I just want to see y'all's face, and I want to be like the squishies and hug y'all, but I'll stay my distance. But love y'all so much. Sending all my love.
You'll flash your lights if it's good. You turn your windshield wipers on if you want to be baptized. Turn on your left blinker. If you just went to the left, turn on your right blinker. If you went to the right, and if you fell out in the Holy Spirit, turn your flashers on. God bless you. We love you. Have an awesome night.